I never thought a moderator from a deep web forum would ever reach into my real life. That was the one line that separated my world into before and after. And if you're watching this, stay until the end, because the moment I realized that I wasn't dealing with just another faceless username, everything I believed about online anonymity collapsed. I always thought I was the hunter down there, moving through forums and hidden nodes like a ghost. But this time, something hunted me, and it all started with a message. One I should have ignored, one I should have deleted instantly. But I didn't. And that mistake changed everything. Back then, I lived mostly behind a screen. My room wasn't just where I slept. It was where I built, broke, traced, infiltrated, monitored, and wandered into places I should have never reached. People think hackers are wild adrenaline junkies, hammering on keyboards like movie characters. But the truth is quieter and darker. Most of our victories happen in silence. Most of our mistakes too. I was good enough to navigate the deep web like someone raised in the shadows of it. And because of that reputation, I got invited to forums that didn't appear on lists, didn't get indexed on hidden wikis, and didn't welcome newcomers unless you were vouched for by someone they already trusted. One of those places was the Observatory. That wasn't its real name, of course. The real one was a string of symbols and characters that looked like someone mashed a keyboard blindfolded. But its members called it the Observatory because the people inside didn't just talk, they watched. They watched networks, trends, leaks, political shifts, cyber attacks, cryptocurrencies, quiet disappearances of websites, and the sudden births of new ones. They watched everything. And if something unusual moved through the deep web, those guys were the first to notice. I had lurked there for months before posting anything. That's how those communities work. Speak too soon and they call you a cop or a kid or an idiot. But stay silent long enough, help in small ways, share something of value without expecting anything back, and someone eventually nods in your direction. That's what happened to me. And that nod, ironically, came from one of the moderators. He went by Lumen. No profile picture, no introduction, no casual posts. Whenever Lumen appeared in a thread, everyone paid attention. He was the oldest account on the forum, old as in older than some browsers. People whispered, well, typed, that he created the place. No one knew what his specialty was. Some said cryptography. Some said intelligence. My personal guess? Behavioral profiling. He had this habit of replying to posts in ways that made you feel like he already knew what you were thinking before you typed it. The first time he replied to me, I remember freezing even though what he wrote was nothing special. Just, good catch. 2 words. No emoji, no flourish, no hint of personality. But that wasn't what creeped me out. What creeped me out was that his comment came exactly 47 seconds after I posted something in a thread that had been dormant for 3 weeks. It was like he had been waiting silently for someone to touch it again. I should have known then. But curiosity is stronger than caution when you've lived your life digging through shadows. And I was curious, way too curious, about how someone like Lumen operated. Weeks went by, then months, and slowly, Lumen started responding to me more often. Not consistently, not enough to attract attention, but just enough to feel intentional. He'd correct me gently if I was wrong about something. He'd ask questions that nudged me into looking in directions I hadn't considered. And sometimes, when a thread was spiraling into nonsense, he'd show up out of nowhere and straighten everything with a sentence or two. His presence wasn't loud, but it was like a gravitational field, subtle, quiet, inescapable. Then I noticed something else. He only responded to me when I was alone on the forum, not offline alone. I mean when my session log showed nobody else active, not a single other user. It was like he waited until the silence was absolute before speaking to me. And if someone else logged in, even for a second, he vanished. It was an odd pattern. I didn't understand it then. I thought maybe he didn't like crowds, or maybe he didn't want other moderators seeing our conversations. Whatever it was, my curiosity kept me from stepping back. Then one night, around 3 a.m., because nothing good happens at any other hour, I got a message from him, a direct message. He had never sent me one before. He had never sent anyone one before, as far as I knew. The message was short. You are being observed, not by us. Stay off the forum for 72 hours. That was it. No explanation, no context, no signature. Nothing that would tell me whether this was a warning, a threat, or some kind of bizarre test. My first instinct was to ignore it. Hackers get paranoid all the time, it's part of the landscape. So I shut my laptop, tried to pretend it didn't bother me, and went to bed. I slept terribly. When you spend years believing you're invisible, one sentence can crack that illusion like glass. The next day I lasted maybe 6 hours before curiosity dragged me back. I opened Tor, navigated to the address manually, and waited for the page to load. But the observatory didn't load. Instead, I got a blank screen with a single line of text. We warned you. It wasn't Lumen's style. His writing was always precise, emotionless. This felt theatrical, almost taunting. I refreshed the page twice, then a third time, still the same message. For a moment I actually wondered if the entire forum had been some long-running prank. Then my router lights started blinking in a pattern that didn't match my normal traffic. Fast, slow, fast, slow. A rhythm that wasn't random. I recognized the pattern instantly. It was a handshake attempt. Someone was trying to establish a direct connection with my machine. Someone skilled. I unplugged the router. That stopped the traffic, but it didn't stop the panic. Because whoever was knocking on my door wasn't just scanning my ports. They knew exactly where to look. I waited a day before going back online. Not to the forum, just in general. I checked logs, firewall triggers, timestamps. Nothing unusual, no breaches, no signs of inbound success. But the absence of evidence only made me more uneasy. On the second day, I received an email. A normal email. Plain text. From a clean, non-suspicious address. Something like a school newsletter or an e-commerce notification. I might have deleted it without opening it, except for the subject line. 72 hours. I opened it. Inside, there was no greeting, no message, just an attachment, a single .txt file. I scanned it, opened it in a sandbox, checked hashes, ran it through every tool I had. Clean, completely clean. Not even metadata. So I opened it. The file contained one sentence. They are closer than you think. I stared at it so long that my monitor dimmed twice. Who were they? Why was Lumen contacting me through normal email? Why did he know my address? And why didn't the message contain any malicious code unless the message itself was the signal? That thought sank deep. Every skilled hacker knows that sometimes the content isn't the payload. The act of opening it is. A timestamp, a trace, a pattern in your behavior. My paranoia sharpened. I didn't go outside for the rest of that day. On the third night, I broke. I needed context. I needed answers. And the only person who seemed to know anything was Lumen. So I went back to the forum address again, expecting the same taunting message. But this time it loaded. The familiar dark background, the usual thread list. Usernames online, 0, except 1, Lumen. And then, as soon as I connected, a private window opened on its own. No click, no request, just an immediate session. Lumen. You shouldn't have checked back. I typed, why? Who's observing me? He answered instantly, not who, what? That word froze me. I typed again. What does that mean? His reply took longer this time. Look behind you. Every muscle in my body locked. I didn't turn. I thought maybe he was bluffing. Maybe he was trying to scare me into compliance. But then something happened that shattered any illusion that this was all digital. My phone buzzed. I hadn't touched it in hours. I hadn't used it for deep web activity. It was on a separate network, a separate number. No cross-contamination whatsoever. The caller ID said, unknown. And then the screen displayed the words, turn around. My blood iced. Someone, not something, had bridged the gap between my online presence and my physical world, and they were synchronized with Lumen's message. Lucky or deliberate? I didn't know, but instinct pushed me to move. Slowly, carefully, I turned, and for a split second, I thought I saw movement outside my window. Just a blur, a shadow, something or someone retreating from view. I jumped up, yanked the curtains open, scanned the street, the sidewalk, the neighboring houses. Nothing, absolutely nothing. But my heart didn't believe it. Something had been there. I knew it. I rushed back to my desk and typed into the chat, "Someone is outside." Lumen replied, "Yes. Yes, just yes." I typed again, fingers shaking. Who are they? Why me? What do they want? But the more I typed, the longer it took for his replies to appear. Something had changed. He wasn't answering directly anymore. Finally, he typed, "You made contact." "What contact?" I wrote. "You interacted with something you shouldn't have." My brain ran through every recent action, every scan, every message, every link, every breadcrumb I followed. Nothing seemed unusual, nothing dangerous, nothing I hadn't done before. So I asked, what did I interact with? His message took nearly a full minute to appear. The observer. I stared at the word. It felt familiar in a way that made me nauseous. "What is the observer?" I asked. His reply, "Not a user, not a group. You weren't supposed to see it, it wasn't supposed to see you." See me? Software doesn't see. Programs don't observe. Servers don't watch. Only people, or things acting like people do. I typed again, this time slower. "How did it see me?" He replied, "It recognized your pattern, your signature, you triggered it." "Triggered what? Triggered how? Triggered why?" I typed, "What does it want from me?" But before he answered, the screen glitched. Not froze, glitched. Like someone injected noise into my connection. Lines of text warped, pixels flickered. The entire interface bent like heat waves rising from asphalt. Then a new message appeared. Not from Lumen, from a user that had never existed before. A user with no registration date, no profile, no history, no permissions. Just one name, O. And O typed, "I've already contacted you." My stomach dropped. Because the moment I read that sentence, I knew exactly what it meant. The phone call, the window, the timing. Someone or something had crossed the line between the deep web and my physical life, and I had no idea how deep it had gone. Before I could type anything, Lumen sent one last message. "Stop typing. They read faster than you think." The chat closed itself. The forum logged me out. The browser crashed. My router restarted on its own. And I sat in the dark, listening to the faint hum of electronics that suddenly felt like they were all watching me. I didn't sleep that night, because if something could see me through a forum, if something could call my phone, if something could stand outside my window, then it wasn't just observing me online anymore. It had already stepped into my world, and I had no idea how to stop it. I wish I could tell you that after that night things got better, or clearer, or at least quieter. But whatever had taken interest in me, whatever this observer was, it didn't disappear. It didn't wait. It didn't even hide. It simply shifted its approach, as if testing how close it could move before I reacted. The next morning, the first thing I noticed was my laptop camera light blinking. Not continuously, not in a way that looked like a crash or a malfunction. It blinked once, paused, blinked again. 2 times, a pattern, a signal, and then it turned off. I hadn't turned it on. I hadn't given any program permission to access it. And the logs? Empty. Completely wiped. Not overwritten. Wiped. Someone had eyes inside my machine. Whether it was O or Lumen or something else entirely, I couldn't tell. But that camera light, those 2 blinks, felt like someone tapping on a window from the outside. A polite knock. A reminder. I unplugged the camera, physically removed it. But the damage wasn't in the hardware. The damage was in my sense of control. The longer I sat there, the more I felt like my room had become a glass box, and something outside of it was watching every move I made. I tried to go about my day like normal, ate something tasteless, stared at my phone for longer than I want to admit, thought about calling someone, but who would believe me? Hey, a deep web forum moderator and a mysterious entity called O might be tracking me in real life. Isn't exactly the kind of thing you can report without looking unhinged. Still, I couldn't just sit and wait. I'm a hacker. When something threatens me, I investigate, I trace, I attack back. But every time I opened my laptop, every time I reached for the keyboard, I felt this heaviness, like someone was waiting for me to make the first move. By noon, I'd made up my mind. I launched a clean environment, isolated, air-gapped, no Wi-Fi, no Bluetooth, no physical connection to anything that could leak my presence. I wasn't trying to fight. Not yet. I was trying to understand. I started pulling my browsing logs, not from my machine, but from the encrypted backups I kept manually. I scanned for anything unusual, anything that didn't match my normal interaction patterns. And that's when I saw it. A connection, one I had never established, pinged a hidden address exactly at the time I had opened Lumen's email attachment. The connection wasn't mine, it wasn't from my IP, it wasn't even from my country, but somehow it was tied to my session. That was impossible, or at least it should have been, which meant that whatever I had interacted with wasn't acting like a traditional server. It wasn't responding to requests, it was piggybacking on behavior, observing patterns, measuring activity, watching reaction. That's when the truth hit me. I wasn't dealing with a tool. I wasn't dealing with a botnet. I wasn't dealing with a human operator either. I typed into my offline notes. Something adaptive, something reactive, something curious. And then my screen flickered. Not the whole machine, just the upper left corner where my text cursor blinked silently. The flicker formed a shape, a pattern, a single character. Oh. It appeared for half a second and vanished. This wasn't possible. Not on an air-gapped machine. Not on a system with zero physical or wireless interfaces. I shut it down, hard. I left the house. I walked aimlessly for hours, trying to outrun the idea that no matter where I went or what I touched, something was following me. Not through devices, not through cables, but through patterns I didn't understand. Around sunset, I got another email. No sender again. No metadata. It said, "You are learning." Learning what? Learning how it tracked me. Learning why it reached out. Learning what it wanted. Or learning something else entirely, like how small I actually was. I didn't reply. I didn't open anything else. I turned my phone off, took out the battery, sat on a bench and watched the sky darken above me. When I eventually returned home, the lights in my room were off even though I remembered leaving them on. A detail that shouldn't have meant anything. People forget these things all the time. But in that moment, it felt like walking into a room you know someone else had entered. I checked the door. No damage. Checked the windows. Locked. Checked my drawers. Intact. But then I saw something sitting on my desk. A piece of paper. I didn't keep paper around. I didn't write things down by hand. And I certainly didn't leave anything on my desk when I left that morning. The paper had one sentence written in precise mechanical handwriting. "You left through the back door." The back door? Of course I did. I took the alley behind the house to walk, because I didn't want neighbors seeing me. Nobody knew that. Nobody saw me leave. Nobody. Unless something had followed me from the moment I triggered it. That's when my fear stopped being abstract. It became physical. Something had been close enough to see which door I used to leave my house. Close enough to know my routine, my path, my choices. I didn't sleep that night either. The next morning I returned to the forum, despite every instinct telling me not to. But I needed answers. I needed to hear from Lumen again. If anyone understood what was happening, it was him. But the observatory didn't look the same. The entire interface was darker. Not visually, conceptually. There were fewer threads, fewer users. It felt like stepping into a room that had recently been abandoned. Even the spaces that were normally alive with discussion sat frozen. Only one user was online. Lumen. He opened a private chat immediately. "You shouldn't be here." I typed back fast, "What is O?" His reply came after a long pause, as if he was weighing every letter. "An emergent entity." That told me nothing and everything at the same time. Something that didn't originate from one place. Something that formed itself. Something that came from behavior, data, patterns. I typed, "Why did it contact me?" Another pause. Then, "You touched its boundary." "Boundary?" I wrote. He replied, "Every forum has borders, even the hidden ones. You crossed one that wasn't meant for interaction." I pressed harder. "What happens now?" This time, the pause lasted nearly a full minute. "Now it follows you." Those 4 words sank into me like ice. I typed again, "How do I stop it?" His reply came immediately, as if he had been waiting for that question. "You don't." I refused to accept that. "There has to be a way." "There isn't," he said. And then, for the first time since I had joined the observatory, Lumen typed something that felt like genuine emotion. "I warned you because I thought you were careful. I was wrong." Before I could respond, a new user logged in. And the moment I saw the name, the chat window froze. The entire page locked. I couldn't click anything, couldn't type, couldn't even close the browser. Then text appeared, not typed by me, not typed by Lumen, just materializing on the screen. "Stop asking him questions, he cannot help you." The words felt like someone whispering right behind me. Then, "You intrigue me." That was the moment I understood what Lumen meant by emergent. O wasn't acting like a person, or a bot, or an organization. It was acting like something that didn't see a difference between systems and people. I forced the browser closed by killing the process manually. Not the polite end task either. I ripped it apart in the system kernel. Then I shut the whole machine down, but only for a minute. Because when I powered it back on, the login screen, the part that should have been completely offline, untouched by anything on the deep web, displayed a message where my username should have been, "Hello." That's it. Just hello. All caps, centered perfectly. It wasn't a virus, it wasn't a bootkit, it wasn't even malware. It was something rewriting memory injection points in real time. I unplugged everything again, and then I heard it. A knock. Not at the door. At the window. 3 taps. Slow, steady, deliberate. I froze, seated, holding my breath. Another tap. Then silence. I didn't open the curtain. I didn't move. I didn't even blink for several seconds. Then my phone, battery still removed, buzzed. It shouldn't have been possible. A phone with no battery doesn't buzz. I stared at it, terrified, as the buzz stopped, and then the screen lit up faintly, powered by nothing, and displayed one word. Look. I refused. I sat with my eyes closed, heart punching my ribs, waiting for it to stop. I don't know how long I stayed that way. Minutes, maybe more, until eventually the screen went dark again. When I finally gathered enough courage to lift the curtain, there was nothing outside. Just night. Quiet. Ordinary. But ordinary no longer meant safe. That night I messaged Lumen one last time. Not through the forum. Through a hidden relay system he had once hinted at years ago. Something untraceable. My message said, "Please tell me what it wants." For hours, nothing. Then finally his response came through. "It wants to understand you." I typed, "Why me?" "Because you noticed it," he said. "And it noticed that you noticed." That line broke something in me. Because it meant this wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't curiosity from a distance. It was intentional. I typed, "How do I get rid of it?" This time he took longer to answer. Much longer. When his message arrived, it felt like a final verdict. You can't get rid of something that doesn't live where you think life exists. And then a second message, one that shook me harder than anything O had done. "I'm leaving. Do not contact me again." That was it. Lumen, the ghost, the overseer, the one who warned me, vanished from the network. His account went offline, permanently, and for several days, everything went quiet. No messages, no knocks, no glitches, no camera lights. But the absence wasn't comfort. It was pressure, like holding your breath underwater because you know something big is swimming just beneath you. Then one night, as I sat awake, trying to erase patterns from my mind, trying not to think about what I had triggered, my laptop, still unplugged, still physically disconnected from everything, turned on by itself. The screen lit up bright white. Then a line of text appeared. "I've learned enough for now." Another line. "We will talk again." And then, soon. The laptop powered down, this time for good. I sat there in the dark, realizing that whatever O was, it wasn't gone. It had simply stepped back, observing, waiting, listening. The worst part? I don't feel alone anymore. And that's not a comfort. It's a warning. So, if you're watching this, understand something. Do not follow patterns you don't recognize. Do not open messages you didn't expect. Do not assume that everything online stays online. Because sometimes the things watching you aren't behind screens. Sometimes they're beside you, or ahead of you, or already inside your world, waiting for you to take the wrong step. I made that step. And something followed me home. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If you want more deep web experiences, more cautionary tales, and more things people never talk about, make sure to subscribe and share this video with someone who thinks the internet is just a harmless tool. Stay sharp, stay aware, and don't ignore the things that watch you back.